Welcome to our newest season of the Just Help Out Mindset podcast and channel. Thank you so much for joining us. We are now no longer just audio, we're visual. So I hope you're very excited. We have an amazing guest today, like we always do. This guest is a very, very special friend of mine, a very amazing woman. Nichole Schmidt is here with us. And despite the profound loss of her daughter, Gabby, she remains driven by the belief that Gabby's legacy can make a difference. As a mother of four, she finds comfort in signs of Gabby's enduring presence. Alongside her husband, Jim, Nichole's diverse background as an artist, former EMT, and teaching assistant has shaped her resilience. And let me tell you, Nichole is resilient. Since Gabby's passing, Nichole has become a passionate advocate for domestic violence and missing persons, using her voice to bring about positive change. Together with their family, they honor Gabby's memory through their work with the Gabby Petito Foundation, committed to making a lasting impact in the fight for justice and awareness. Nichole, thank you so much for being on the show. You are absolutely amazing. You know I love you. So welcome. We're going to have a really good discussion today centered around parents who have lost their children and the mental health, that goes into this loss. So welcome.
Thank you for having me. I love how we have our two Nichole names up on the screen, spelled with an H, and
That's
you're
right.
the first friend I've had that has that. So I love it. We were meant to be friends.
We were. We met in very interesting ways that we know Joey and Gabby brought us together. They were
That's
adamant
another
that
whole podcast.
that's a whole
That's
nother
another
show.
whole podcast.
That's going to be part two.
Yeah.
So Nichole, I know pretty much everyone is very familiar with this case. It made national headlines, and this happened 3 years ago.
Yeah, 2021, September.
2021. So you've been through hell, but you are the strongest person, like ever. Can you share, because I really want this episode to help other parents who have lost their children. So can you share your experience? Like what has really helped you navigate, especially the initial stages that you were feeling with grief?
First off, I want to say that everybody goes through grief differently. Everybody needs to do whatever works for them. But I think initially we all kind of go through a shock stage, an anxiety. We're kind of numb. You don't know what's going on. It's the shock just is so profound. I remember literally shaking for weeks. Like I couldn't stop my body from shaking. It's almost like when you have the chills, you can't stop doing that. So that was like the physical feeling of it. And mentally, in my case, obviously my child was missing. So I was hyper focused on finding her. I was doing whatever I needed to do to find her. Then we found out she was gone. And although I kind of knew that was coming, I had a mom feeling that that was coming. It was like still shocking to get that phone call. And that was like the shock all over again. First, she was missing for 11 days. I was in shock. And then I got like another jolt of shock from finding out she was gone, which, we knew somebody took her life and we knew who it was at the time, but, he was missing too at that point. So anyway, everybody knows the case, but the trauma and the physical feeling and the mental drain that I had, honestly, I was sick for months. I started getting sick constantly. My brain fog, it's still now I have brain fog. I forget what I'm saying while I'm talking. I'll be talking to somebody in mid-sentence and it's just gone. So, there's all these different things. And as a therapist, you know what people go through with trauma. But I would suggest that parents or anybody going through trauma with a loved one who has passed, or, something extreme has happened to somebody they love, that they take the time for self-care, because you do lose yourself in everything that's going on around you, and you forget to take care of you. And I think it's just now setting in for me 3 years later that I need to stop and take breaks. I need to worry about my health. I exercise every morning now. I'm trying to eat healthier. I'm trying to focus on me, because as an advocate now, and I started a foundation, I can't save the world if I'm not in good health, or I'm not taking care of me and my family. We come first, and then I do want to save the world. So that's that's part of
That makes
it.
two of us.
Yeah.
You are incredible. You are incredible. And yes, trauma stays in your body. I tell my
hmm
clients that, we can pretend things didn't happen. We can not address it. Because it's hard. It's really hard to process what happened, but that doesn't mean that it goes away. It stays with you, and it can turn into autoimmune diseases. But like you said, you were sick for months because the stress, it was just eating at you. And you were in a horrible shock. I mean, this is all over the news. It's just awful, awful, awful. So even here, as we sit 3 years later, you're still experiencing, these kind of after effects. And people say time heals, but in this case,
Yeah.
it doesn't. It does
I
not.
don't think so. I know there's never going to be closure. I
No.
think we learn to manage trauma and
Yeah.
like live with it.
Yes.
It rewires your brain. We know that scientifically. We know that trauma completely changes your brain. And so we have to kind of figure out how to deal with that. And I've kind of taken that approach of learning myself. I've delved into trying to figure out how I can have self-care, and I don't want to fall into that depression and just be miserable. I want to move forward.
You want to
I
live.
can't I can't change things. Yeah, I want to live, and I know Gabby would want me to live. She would
That's right.
be so angry at me
Yeah.
if I was sad all the time. And I have moments, and I get through my moments, and then I keep going.
Yeah. I mean, Gabby, like the happiest, loving every minute of life, would never want to see her mom, be sad and upset and not getting out of bed and things like that. And that's the same way with Joey. We know Joey he would not be okay if we were all just laying in bed crying.
Yeah.
They want us to keep living. They want us to keep and advocate for people, which you're doing a tremendous job, which we'll get into. How did you find the strength? I mean, so months go by, you're in shock, you're sick. I mean, but how do you remember the time when you were like, okay, like I'm gonna live again. I'm gonna change this to a foundation. I'm gonna keep Gabby's name alive and try to protect other people maybe in these situations.
My immediate reaction was I need to start a foundation, because it
Immediately.
was like yeah, it was like probably within days after we found out she was gone. I was just like I was so angry. I think that was my anger, that I was like, that's it. I'm not letting this happen again. I'm going to save people. Um, that happening kept my brain busy for a while and let me kind of focus on something that was meaningful. We were getting lots of response from people saying that Gabby saved their life, and that what we're doing is inspiring them to do stuff. And, we still get contacted today of people are like, thank you for being so strong. You have encouraged me to do this. Or, I seen Gabby and I left a relationship because I didn't want that to happen to me. And that keeps us going.
Yeah.
So I know that Gabby, unfortunately, her loss is helping so many people, and it just makes me want to keep doing it. So it inspires me. It keeps me going. I could never fall into, I've had days where I just want to stay in bed and watch Netflix, and you have to give yourself permission to do that once in a
Yeah,
while.
yeah, of course. Yeah.
Um, but if you fall into unhealthy habits during trauma and grief, it could get really bad. There's so many things with a child um, being murdered specifically, the divorce rate's 90%.
Yes.
So you have to like focus on family and just it's effort, but I don't know what I'd be doing otherwise, to be honest. I just couldn't do it.
That brings up a really good point. I wanted to, how has it affected everyone in the family? I mean, this is
Yeah.
anytime you lose someone, we lost Joey. I'm his sister, but then you've got mom, of course, but then there's dad, there's cousins, there's aunts, uncles. I mean, the loss of someone like this, it's a ripple effect.
Oh
It hurts.
yeah. And everybody handles it differently.
Yes,
So
exactly, exactly. So, but the immediate family, if you want to share how difficult that's been amongst the immediate family of Gabby.
well, as a mom, I have to make sure my kids are okay. So I keep an eye on them and I watch them. Obviously, therapy is a huge help. We have to maintain that. Um, the older son, my son TJ is 21 now. I don't I don't think he's dealt with it. I don't think he's dealt with his grief, and I hope that he can find that one day a time to do that because I don't want it to eat away at him. Um, Maybe he's dealing with it quietly. I don't know, but I can't force him to talk. My younger one, she's 11. She's doing great. She likes to talk to the therapist. She talks about her sister all the time, which I think is really healthy. I think that talking about your loved one, especially if you have kids, is really important.
Yes.
And the teenagers are going through stuff. She's probably struggling a little more than everybody else, but we're working through it.
Yeah, that's
Men always handle things differently.
they should.
So, yeah. So, it, he's my husband. He's doing his best. I mean, he's working through it in his own way. We all are just very different people. He'll ask me like, "How do you stay so positive all the time?" And it's just like, because I just can't be negative. It feels
Right.
gross to me. It feels my body feels not good when I'm in a negative space, and I just have to find the reason and the purpose to keep staying positive.
Yeah. And you're such a light. I mean, you're just naturally a light. I mean, you're freaking amazing. Um, but so everyone, you hit the nail on the head. Everyone deals with grief differently. You've got all different age ranges. You've got um males versus females. So it's all different. So now you have experienced all of that, all of their reactions. So one thing I know we talked about is EMDR, which
Mhm.
we're going to try, which I really think this is great for anyone who has horrible trauma or like
Yeah.
really, really big grief. And my next interview, I'm going to be interviewing Dr. Doba, who is a psychologist who actually trained me in EMDR, and that stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And we are going to do that with Nichole. We want to see,
I'm
we
excited.
yeah, because as Dr. Doble will explain, the past is present. So yes, it's been 3 years,
Yes.
but it's right now. Like we always are feeling that now. Joey, 2 years. I'm feeling it always right now. It's always the past is present. So that trauma gets stuck in the amygdala of your brain, but the EMDR allows both sides of your brain to connect and you're able to process. And it's very
Mhm.
difficult because we don't want to go back. We don't want to think about it. But remember that just stays in your body then. So it's almost
Right,
like
right.
you're like setting yourself free.
Yeah. It's frustrating because you don't want to think about those bad things, but you think about them because you can't help it and you're going to relive it every single day.
Yep.
And things are going to trigger it to come back.
Yes.
If EMDR can help me, put that stuff in the background, I would
Yes.
love that. That would help me move even further faster. Like, I just feel like I do get stuck sometimes, and I cannot wait to try it.
Well, we can have a follow-up episode after we do EMDR. And so you can kind of give everyone like your personal experience and how you feel about it. You
That
know,
would be great.
that would be
Yeah.
fantastic. So you are doing amazing things to honor Gabby. So if you want to just talk a little bit about the foundation, I know you've spoken at lots of conferences. If you want to just kind of talk about that, what you guys are so busy doing.
Yeah. So we are working on a lot in the background with Gabby Petito Foundation, and you could check us out at gabbypetitofoundation.org. You can also contact us at info at all that gabbypetitofoundation.org. It's so long, I know. But yeah, so we are working on a training program for first responders.
Nice.
And the reason we saw a need for this was because we were both first responders. My husband was a dispatcher and an EMT and a firefighter. So we looked back and we were like, we never got trained on this. I
Mhm.
probably had patients that were going through domestic violence situations, and I didn't know it because I wasn't trained. They might have been able to open up to me about it. I could have given them resources and transferred them over to a hospital, and the nurses need more training. There's a lot of collaboration that needs to be done. So we want to put a program together that will extend from first responders to law enforcement, hospital staff, people in the court system, the dynamics of domestic violence, because it's what I'm seeing now isn't working. Whatever they're doing right now, it's not working. I keep getting the same stories over and over again. Women are mostly women. It does happen to men, but we always kind of use the word women because they are the most prevalent victims in our country. And they aren't getting what they need when it comes to domestic violence. They are either being labeled the aggressor, or they are being arrested themselves because they retaliated and they were, defending themselves. I always say if someone came up to you on the street and mugged you and robbed you and hurt you, they would get arrested and they did something wrong. But when it's for some reason, when it's your intimate partner, there's a whole different outlook on it. And I don't understand that.
Are
So
you seeing that
um
like across the country? You're seeing, is
yes,
that that's a trend? You're seeing that in every state.
everywhere,
Wow.
everywhere. And I don't understand it. So I want to work in the background and help change those things. And that starts with law changes. We lobbied for the lethality assessment to be passed. We just got it passed in Florida, which is great.
Yeah.
And that's just it's a questionnaire for police officers to ask in a trauma-informed way. They have to be trained on this. They can't just pull out a piece of paper and ask a bunch of questions. They will be trained properly and will be able to get victims to the resources they need.
Wonderful.
The other thing we're doing is an education program that we'd like to get in the schools across the country for free. It's going to take a while, but we are working behind the scenes on developing that. And we want to use technology. I think kids today need technology. We don't want to just be go to schools and have assemblies. And I think that's the old style. I want to be able to use, module-based technology models and get education out there that will hopefully be mandated at some point federally so that every school, every kid has access to it. But yeah, no, we're working on a lot of stuff.
That's amazing. I mean, can you
Yeah.
imagine? Gabby is like so happy, like beaming.
Mhm.
She's just so
Yeah.
proud of you guys. She's so, 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 so proud of you. So, um, we're almost out of time here on our first show, but I know we're gonna have more. What advice? I want advice for two parts. One advice for parents who have lost a child, like what advice do you give them to keep going? The other part is, what advice do you give someone who is in a relationship and they are experiencing domestic violence?
Well, I was just at a Parents of Murdered Children conference. So I see I've seen the dynamic of parents in different just they all grieve so differently. And my heart hurts for parents that are having trouble getting through it. And all I can say is don't stop talking about your loved one, even if other people are getting sick of hearing it. There's people really do that haven't been through it think, when when are you going to be fine? Like it's been a couple of years. Aren't you good now? Like people just don't understand.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So um, you don't ever have to be fine, and just keep them alive with their memory. Just give them, I have a lot of stuff, to remember Gabby by, and that should be a happy celebration. There should be a lot of joy and around your loved one. Don't focus on what happened to them or how they passed. Focus on their life and
Yes.
always continue their memory because that's important.
Yes.
But everybody grieves differently, and give yourself permission to get angry, get sad, but try and take self-care to come out of that and focus on the positive. I know it's hard, but it's it's something you have to do. So,
What's your favorite sign that Gabby sends you that you know she's with you?
gosh. I get everything, numbers. I see things in the clouds all the time, but the one thing that I love the most is when I feel her presence, and it's hard to explain,
Yeah, but
but
you like know she's there.
yeah, like when your brother was around, I'm sure that like he might have a certain smell or just you could just feel their presence. But yeah, like when I feel her presence, it's like your whole body just gets like goosebumps, and you just know that it's them. And it's such a great feeling. I get that all the time. And if someone's in a domestic violence situation or they think they know someone who is, it's important if it's a family member or a loved one or a friend, to keep the lines of communication open in a non-judgmental way. Let them know that you're there. You have to be specific, like, hey, I noticed he was checking your phone or she was checking your phone. I don't know if that is that something that they normally do? Like just kind of ask questions about specific incidents, but then don't give them your opinions, don't judge them. Just let them know you're there because they need a safe person. If you're in a situation, there's a lot of hotlines. Most states have hotlines, and you can call the National Domestic Violence Hotline. It's 1-800-799-SAFE, and they can guide you to the nearest agency that can get you resources, and a plan. You need to set up a plan to get out safe. You cannot just leave. That is the most dangerous time for someone to leave. So yeah, domestic violence is very, very hard, but we need
Yes.
to do
And it, and
something
it
about it.
and when you would say like it starts small, right? Like they'll start with
Yeah.
like a controlling thing of possession. They'll start to kind of tell you you can't go out, you can't talk to this person, you have to dress like this. These are like little things that start, and then before you know
Yeah, and
it,
it's not always physical. It's
yeah,
not always physical. They might control the money.
exactly.
Um, you know, it could just start out with like a little bit of love bombing, then isolation. It's gradual. And this is typical, not always, but typical of most relationships. They gradually start to get worse and worse and worse. So we have some information on our website, but I also suggest the hotline in thehotline.org. One Love Foundation is fantastic. They have tons of resources, and domesticshelters.org. I mean, there's so much information out there. Educating yourself is so important.
Yeah.
I didn't know the signs. I wish that I had the education. So I just encourage people to self-educate. There's lots of free resources out there. So just read about it. What are the signs? What do I need to look for? How do I talk to a loved one? How do I get out? Everything's out there for you.
Yeah. Amazing, amazing advice, amazing resources. You yourself are one of my favorite people ever. I'm so happy I met you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me on the show today. I think you are helping so many people all the time. I'm so proud of you. I am so, so proud of you. But we will definitely have a follow-up episode after EMDR. So this is pre, we'll do a post. In the middle, we'll do the psychologist who trained me on it. It'll be perfect. So for our viewers and our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in today for another episode of the Just Help Out Mindset podcast and channel, where we are breaking the stigma of mental health one episode at a time. Please join us next week for our next episode.